welcome, welcome. Anyone who's here for the first time or returning. Tonight, this is going to be the first time we do some actual dungeon building on stream, because I have run out of actual art stuff to work on. Or at least stuff that'll be still interesting to work on. Go ahead and pop over to the main stream now to show everyone what we are working with. There we go. So once again, back to handy dandy GIMP. We have the map we will be working on for the dungeon. It is a 2-floor mansion. There you go. Upper, but I think for now we're going to be starting with the lower stuff for a bit. It's because I had to kind of like eat between getting off work and coming in here. I've been able to do the last details, but I've got a separate file here for all the randomness I'll be rolling for. Actually, that's a good thing to remember, to pop out my little dice roller box. Ugh. Just move that up. So the nice thing about this game is it only needs a D10. It's a little hard for people who are just working out of whatever board games you have at home. But for typical dice goblins like myself, there's always quite a few options to go with, if any in particular start to fail me. Where is it? There we go, a 0 to 9, and treating that 0 as the 10. Yeah, with so this was, I believe it was a Kickstarter game, and it's pretty much just like a 6 or 8 page little booklet of just how to do everything. The let's see, did the creator put their name on here? Yes, Tracy Barnett, who actually does a bunch of little like pen and paper games like this. Some of them are multiplayer, some, like this one, are single player, kind of just help, most of them are like really heavy RP, some will pull from like, use a deck, use some D6s, stuff like that. It's a very nice small-time creator, but I'm gonna, actually, I forgot, with this handy stream, I can actually just put a little attribution here. Let's see, text. So which one's there? Alright. Dungeon cat. Oh, nope. Where is... I guess I have to enter text box before I can move it. Okay, signed by Tracy Barnett. That is a little big. Just a little bit. Well, let's stop doing that. There. Let's just bring her down. Something smaller. Come on, flippy flip there. Alrighty. Yeah, it's they have a Patreon as well. I don't think there's going to be enough text room here, but let's see if I can manage it. Hey, come on, let's squeeze it. Okay, there we go. Hey, middle line. .com/ just the other Tracy, okay. Oh, no E. There. Actually, there's not supposed to be an E up here. But yeah, they make a bunch of different games like this, I believe, just by what's it called? I think it's just subscribing on there. You have access to all the previous games they made as well, which would include this. Yeah, if you want to ever do this yourself, inspire yourself for a session or two, go for it. It's very fun, even with it just being a single-player game. So, before I start with some continual editing to this, I'll go ahead and just walk through how this game works. I've already done the first phase, the beginning. I haven't done as much of the text as I'd like. That's fine. I've got it all written out. I can always do the important markers on screen here. But you start with a beginning, the original form, like warehouse, military barracks, castle, cave, etc. Then you figure out the who. Who made this happen? Did some powerful lich, a priest, a curse? Figure out why this structure is turning into a dungeon. The third question, the beginning, the setup phase. What evil took root in your heart? And doesn't explain anything about any limits or suggestions. It's pretty much just pure RP, which means it can fit for any setting. Let's see, for this one, oh wait, I should do the last question. The what foul being first heeded the call of your curse? It's pretty much the equivalent of who, what, why, where this dungeon is happening. Now, this particular one, which is partially canon for the campaign I'm currently running, Friday nights, is the mention of a cartel who had some magical assistance for a good chunk of what they do. Some handy little wizards known as the Investor. Oh shit, wrong layer. Known simply as the Investors, who kind of like funded them. Oh yeah, but that's they're vacating the premises is why that it's kind of devolving into a dungeon. So you don't just leave cursed ground just willy-nilly. You gotta actually do something about that. Yeah, it's a semi-modern manor. Like I said, 2 floors here. And, the past inhabitants, all this cartel members, and a good chunk of their usable gear, got out before Johnny Law could close in on them. The who's responsible for the creation is the Circle of 7 Wizards. All white supremacists, and though it was not discovered in-game, all former Nazis who escaped after, the Third Reich started falling. So this mansion is located in South America, specifically Brazil, and it is actually true fact that a lot of former Nazi command, the ones with connection or money, escaped to Portugal or through Brazil and, just safely hung out there. And, these 7 were just a little bit more magical, and they managed to keep a good chunk of that power after escaping, and just built up over decades of sacrificial rituals before magic came back full and proper, which more than anything meant they had a head start on anyone else. And then moving on to the what evil took root in the heart of this dungeon. Quite simply, the magical rituals that were just suffuse with human sacrifices. They did their best to use every part of the proverbial buffalo here, but they weren't exactly great with magic. And with all the killings over the years, there's a certain amount of residual spirit energy that kind of just stuck to the walls, like cigarette smoke in a rented apartment. And then finally, the what foul being first heeded the call of the curse? Well, the one who is mostly in control, that would be, well, the name exactly won't matter, but it was the envious wizard who considered himself the leader over the others. He specialized in abjuration magic, shutting down their other abilities so he could make sure they stayed in line. After the beginning phase of setting up, you usually only do a couple rooms. I've done the whole map, so I don't have to draw on screen here. We only do a couple rooms, and then do what is called the foray phase. That is when some people start going through your dungeon, innocent townsfolk, adventurers, whatever, but they are typically civilians. When I first tested this game, I was on a plane ride at the time, so it took better part of an hour to get this much. But the first foray event had 4 adventurers. Part of doing this phase is you roll the percentage of how many survive. Not how many die, how many survive. I mean, it's a dungeon, a haunted house, literally in this case. It's a lot more likely, for some amount of death, using a D10 to decide. So this one I manually chose just to get used to it for 4. But you typically use your D10, roll it, and then add 3. And then for each individual, you draw a tarot card. And the tarot card gives a determining factor of 2 words, usually an adjective and a job. These first 4, we got the gracious cowherd, Jean. There's also the amorous poet, DuPont. The delighted jokester, the token woman of the group, Hillary. And the suffering hangman, Clarent. Now, because hangman is not typically a job in the modern world, despite my setting, I kind of ruled it more as he's just a mercenary, but with the age of the rest of the group, a would-be mercenary, someone training up. Someone who could have been part of the peacekeepers if they applied themselves. Yeah, it's I've already done the deciding their fates of the 4, and I had done them in order. There was the final breath of a dying child. For DuPont, there was their own thoughts echoing louder and louder. And also another fate that I'll get to in a bit. Hillary got climbing stairs, unending. And Clarent got hears a whispered conversation, but sees no speakers. All these fates are actually part of the random tables. First roll, the type of event. The second roll being things like of the delights from ruins. They could drink rich mead. They could dance in a fey circle. Those are the happier ones. The more fucked up ones tend to be towards the end here, like all that glitters. A necklace of copper wolf teeth. That's a fun one. Or the stuff of nightmares, especially. The event being like their mouths filled with extra teeth. I really hope I get that sometime, because there's some fun directions to go with that. But yeah, all those events help decide their fate, but as you may have noticed, for what I pulled for these 4, none of them are especially dark or speak of death. However, the percentage who got out alive was 20%. There being 4 people, I ruled that as one person lived, but they lost an arm or hand, depending on how the story came out. So with those factors decided through dice in the book and just assigning them to the various archetypes you draw from your tarot deck, then it's just up to you to write the story, to write what happens to them, to explain why only 20% got out. So I'll go ahead and just do that here. We are going to mark what particular rooms the people died in. Let's start with green. Let's opacity a bit, so that's a bit more noticeable. And we'll swap over to, what's that do? Nope, that sticks to that color. Let's not do that custom brush yet. How about a star? Yeah, star will mark where someone died, and I'll just do different layers for each additional wave. But here's the story that I got for the first team of unfortunate teens. See, though the cartel was left with much of their wealth and magic, curious teens hoping for any forgotten wealth creeped in. Sadly, the decades of sacrifices cling to the walls, waiting for the next innocent victim to join their suffering, and half-lingering glimpse taken hold of by the loneliest of the spirits. Jean wandered into an office looking for hidden compartments. Unbeknownst to him, the first family had once used it as a nursery. Ruthlessly killed by the envious wizard, the child spirit used their protective wards in that room to lock Jean inside forever, his banging unheard just as he could not hear the others, ensuring that this infant's playmate would stay for a couple days before lack of food and water led to his death. So while technically he was not the first to die, his fate was decided quite early. Now, because they were a bunch of teens kind of sneaking in, they would not have taken the forward entrance. That would have been very visible to any of the cops poking around, so no, they snuck in the side entrance here. And young Jean had crept up the stairs to see what was up top, leading to this first main chamber, pretty much not quite the master suite, the main desk space, a lot of files kept in here. But alas, he was locked in, scratching at that door, unable to escape. Now, DuPont followed Hillary, closely followed by her boyfriend, Clarent. DuPont was quite jealous of Clarent, getting such a girl without an inch of romance in his bones. I mean, DuPont has all kinds of poetry. Not all of it's good. I mean, he's a teenager, he gets that, but he's tried really, really hard. Now, I mean, Hillary and Clarent kind of just poking around for the thrill of everything, kind of split off with the doomed Jean right about here. See, and just poked around to see what might have been left behind for goofs. Maybe some files the police didn't quite pick up yet. But eventually they found none, though DuPont fell behind, starting to hear things. Kind of spoke to him. But we'll get back to him later. Hillary and Clarent, getting bored of the upstairs, started looking for secret stairs into a basement below. And this was a mansion, and a former cartel, no less. Surely they'd have some form of wine cellar, yes? So, poking around this particular under staircase area, they actually do find a secret door leading below. Let's see. So, with everything upstairs seemed to be leafed through, flung to the sides, they felt quite hopeful. Hillary hoping to drink the night away with her, bit of a dupe boyfriend. Clarence just hoping for costly vintages to potentially sell. They were down there quite a bit, but then DuPont starts fueled by the whispering of his thoughts echoing louder and louder from within his head, thinking that they were coming out audible to everyone. He's scared that his jealousy is getting overheard, and he takes quite violent action. Violence that Clarence is only barely able to fend off to any degree, considering he only heard the just mumbling to himself, the rattle of bottles on shelves as Clarence looked for a makeshift murder weapon. So Clarence just quietly urged Hillary to run upstairs, get away, with hope that someone could come and help him, because, neither of them are much of a fighter, but broken bottles and glass as weapons, those are going to be tough to recover from. It eventually ends with Clarence ripping open DuPont's stomach with just a broken bottle. A very lucky wound, and unfortunately much deeper than he intended, but as he did so, a burst of crows come out instead of intestines, as if they were just living in a cage all along. The door just rammed open. And, in his fright from the just sudden murder of crows popping out of his currently bleeding out and likely dead friend, Clarence ran, though dizzy from his own blood loss, taking a few choice cuts himself. He's unable to notice that Hillary, in her attempt to escape up the stairs of the secret room, had unfortunately fallen right at the top, tumbling down and taking enough blows that she herself was no longer stirring. Boyfriend did not see as he ran past for whatever exit he could find. Now, in recovering from the fright and eventually getting help, it turned out he had to lose his hand. In that fight, there's unfortunately infected with some strange mold that the doctors could not treat effectively. Every time they tried, it would just seem to come back as if from nowhere. And so he lost his hand. That is how the first foray ended. It's one survivor, one hand lost to the exchange, as well as 3 good friends, one of which was never found, being young Jean, who is locked up in the former nursery. But we can go ahead and mark the staircase foyer, the other 2 deaths. Exactly. So yeah, as you can tell, it's a very bright, cheery game now, isn't it? Yeah, and before going to the next foray, there is one last phase of a typical run-through of You Are the Dungeon, after which it is just a repeat of forays and this final phase, the fallow phase, which starts with a description of they are gone, carrying with them the scars and signs of their time in your deceitful chambers. Even death does not erase the marks left upon them. Answer the questions on this page, then redefine your boundaries. And based on your answers, add new rooms, hallways, or even levels. The first question being, what bright thing was left by the adventurers? For which I chose what I felt was quite obvious. The 3 souls naive to the slaughter and ghosts left behind. How have you turned its brightness into corrupting shadow? Well, the spirits start figuring out that their tormentors are gone, and also discovering that they have some control over the decaying wards left behind. Some of the ghosts want more of this violence, getting a taste for its power. The question after that: in the years since the adventurers who or what has been taken up residence inside of your desperate passages? I figured that some remnants of the Skinsaw Man's devotees gathering together after the hunt has died down, and this mansion is starting to be forgotten. No one wants to buy it because, cartel used to be there, as well as every once in a while peacekeepers come check the property, make sure no major movement has come through. Like random homeless people, they don't care about that. In fact, peacekeepers never really got to see what these Skinsaw men got up to. They took care of the judge, ferreted out a lot of the people affiliated with them. At this point, it'd be about a year, maybe two since then, and well, and no spoiler for my players, but they'll be distracted by some other things for a time. And then the final question: what did the new resident add to your structure? What price did you extract from them? Well, they added some new sigils over the old ones. New bodies to the pits as well. Offerings to their Skinsaw Man that they also worshipped. And the price as well, the new wards aren't quite as good as the old wizards had originally put in. They're finding that they have a bit more control over it. In fact, are even able to edit some of the sigils inside. Unknown to any of these new cultists, as they weren't bright enough to do it right the first time. They certainly aren't bright to really notice. Oh, you're certainly going to try to burn it to the ground. But, that is for a plot later down the road. Let's see? So, that would be about where I left it. So let's go ahead and make a new layer. Let's say the second victims. And from there we'll also do, we'll change out the green for a lighter one. I like just ugly neon. There we go. As well as a text layer for when we get these names. So I already pre-rolled how many adventurers, just so we have that ready. The second group is going to be 5 people strong. So if I get some names for these 5 folks, I'll go ahead and draw some cards and put them in the text box for us. Let's see. Shuffle. Nope, shit, don't lose everything. Okay, no. Flip back. Goddamn. I should have reshuffled too. Okay, here. Alrighty. Okay, 1, 2, 3. That one and there. Not super diverse, but see what we can do with that. Okay, so cards we drew, and I'll only be putting their names and their archetype here. First one is the 7 of Wands. 7 Wands. Ooh, is the defensive drunkard. Okay. Let's try just straight up black. That should be more readable. Yep, and then knock this size down. Actually, I don't actually need that grid. There we go. We got the defensive drunkard. To 20. That's a pretty readable on screen. Alright. Card number 2 was the Five of Swords. Let's see. Page 5 is the Suffering Hangman again. Okay. Hangman. Let's just do here. Alright. We have the Page of Swords. He was the Curious Efficient. Yeah, it was unfortunately a lot of wands and swords. The 5 wands is the Competitive Knight. Finally, the 3 of Swords is the Restless Cut Purse. I'm guessing Minody is a name. Alright, let's see. That sounds like a kind of boring businessy guy name. Let's put him in the efficiency box. Let's see. I've got a couple pre-done names here. Let's see. You know what, for fun, let's call the Competitive Knight Hugh Basford, who I am naming after a very annoying, to me at least, billboard ad of some realtor called Hugh Basford, which, saying it aloud, it kind of sounds like you're trying to get around saying huge bastard. Which feels very fitting for a competitive knight. Let's see. How about, let's go ahead and make a, oh, I misspelled Cuppers. Let's name this Restless Cuppers Jasper. Let's see. Let's look through random usernames on random Discord servers. Okay, there's one guy with the name Van Guardian. So you know what? We'll go ahead and make this drunkard Van. Just leaves the suffering hangman. Different random server, different just slow down. How about that's Michael? I mean, I was trying to avoid doing everyone's names, but sure, we'll go ahead and toss Michael in there. There we go, I can spell. Alrighty. Now it's a case of, well, finding out what their fates are gonna be. First, I'm just gonna cut the deck twice, so it's a little pre-shuffled for next time. Come on. Oh god, these cards are a little big for this, but both eyes, I mean, that only matters if we come down to an uneven amount percent. I'm using a D10, so it's quite possibly is a whole body or bodies that leave. But the percentage who live come last. So, let's see. Start. Actually, I don't need the events thing because I have that in the tab. So going in order, let's start with Van. He is going to get... Ooh, a 9. So we're starting with the heavy stuff. The 9 is the Wonders Beyond Reckoning. There are some interesting choices for the drunkard in here. Let's see. And a 1. So a glorious tree with golden leaves. Might be a little bit of a stretch to fit this in this abandoned mansion, but we'll see what we can do. Let's see. Actually, instead of copy paste, we will just golden tree. Oh. 9-1. Alright, for Michael, let's see what he's gonna get. Ooh, a 1. So he's got Temptations from the Depths. I swear, don't be a 9. Do not start just being 1s and 9s here. Okay. Oh, another 1. Discovering a vase from a long-dead civilization. Okay, okay. Kind of fits with a campaign. One's Derek. We'll say ancient vase. What did I do? 1-1. Minody the Curious Efficient. Another 1. Okay. Okay, so get off the 1s and 9s, please. Something else, something new. That's a 6. There we go. Seeing a glint of gold at the bottom of a well. Alright. Alright, let's, in well. There's a 1-6. Hugh Basford, who I hope suffers extremely. It's a 2, so something new. The Delights from Ruins. Aw, he's gonna get something nice. Damn. I guess it's gonna be cursed then. No, in the box. In the box. There. A 10. The scent of a warm spring meadow. Smell spring. That's a 2, 10. And finally, Jasper. What's your fate, little buddy? Got a 3. Another new section. We've got the Horrible Beauties. Okay, and a 5. A rich leather-bound tome. Oh no. In a currently cult-occupied building? In a formerly wizard-run cartel? That can't go bad. Leather tome. That's a 3-5. There we go. So now it's just a matter of figuring out what poor fates these guys have. Let's see, first thing is probably figuring out where the hell this golden tree is. Let's swap color. I said swap, there we go. Swap colors, and let's go with second victims here. Where's the most likely place? It's been abandoned for a few years, but that's not really enough for the building to start falling apart and expose the outside. So you know what? I think this is going to decide their entry point for this second... Oh, wait. I almost forgot. How many of these sad fucks survive? Let's go ahead and make this a new line here. Okay, D10. What is their fate? 5. Only 50%. How sad. Because with 5 people, that means someone's probably losing no, 2 someones are probably losing an arm or a leg on the way out. Ooh, buddy. Not turning out well for your group. Yeah. With the golden tree, let's go ahead and use the sun parlor. which, going off the name, I assume is kind of like a mix between like a greenhouse and like a gazebo type area. Yeah. The second victim is he'll notice his golden tree in there. Meanwhile, Michael's got an ancient face, doesn't he? See, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of places downstairs it would have been. So I think this suffering hangman is gonna find it also in the basement. You know, with the curious efficient, I think we need to kind of figure out why this group is in here. This sounds like a lot of older folks. It's Restless Cut Purse is probably being forced to help with this. Maybe they're the fence, that's the term. Fence, and they insisted he come. Which would leave this all a bunch of ne'er-do-wells. Let's see. With a way of entry, knowing some cultists are abound, I think one of these guys is going to end up being, one of the survivors just going to be part of the cult. I think our knight's the best one, because Hugh Basford also kind of sounds like a fake name. So we're going to call this one the Traitor. So if there's a good story to come out of it, maybe the Traitor goes down too. It's the cost of the attempt. So the Traitor getting a bunch of guys together for one big score. No one's been in that mansion for years. So the Curious Efficient. Let's go ahead and look up. Actually, I almost forgot. I had some special music for this. By special, I mean it's a kind of crossover medley of a couple kind of spooky and very nice story shows. Drawing from some of the soundtracks of Gravity Falls, Amphibia, and The Owl House. It's an hour long, so I just have to refresh this once during this stream, and I'll easily know when the 2 hours is up. Yeah, there's eyes looking up. What the fuck? Efficient is. Second job. Let's see. One who performs a religious rite or presides over a religious ceremony. Okay. Let's turn that down a little bit. Alright, so a holy man being taken down by this particular cult, the Skin Saw Men. Okay. This is gonna be interesting. Let's see. Gold in a well. Well, as fancy as this cartel is, certainly modern, I don't think the well is going to be a local one. But there is a kitchen. So you know what we will say? Maybe there's something in or near the kitchen sink. Happens to fall in. So he's got to contend with the garbage disposal. And you know, through Basford, the smell of a spring meadow. It might be there's some sort of illusion. Maybe the jig is up at some point and he gets caught out. You know, the one most fitting for that is probably the Restless Cut Purse. Maybe he's a little arcane trickster going on. Finds out something up because he's the one that finds the leather tome. Probably not enough magical know-how to know exactly what it is, but certainly enough to know it's not anything good. So let's see. Sorry. Apologies for that. So let's say he also goes down to the basement. Because the ancient vase is down there. There's probably a few magical books to fiddle around with. So, what's the story here? We got our traitor. It's caught out in illusion. Jasper's the one that kind of notices it. Let's see, perhaps kind of looking around, observing some of the wards that are worn, but some of which are not worn as much as others. Let's see. Wards to notice, but perhaps a little too late to everyone out quickly. I think that'll have to be saved for last. Let's figure out, let's see, the golden tree I think is going to be our absolute last. Maybe he's close enough that he's able to get out and ditch the others. I mean, he's a defensive drunkard, but he's a drunkard nonetheless. So the kitchen. They're curious efficient. Let's see, coming in for a one score. Probably a very crooked cleric of some sort. Searching for the not jewelry, cutlery. That's it. The efficient going after just collecting all the cutlery, seeing that there's some in the sink. Just food dried on it so long ago, it probably needs a scraper to get off. You know, gold plated is gold plated. Collecting it what he can. Noticing it's like looks like one got down to the garbage disposal. He's very easily trapped there. It's the classic blunder. You try and shove your hand into a cookie jar, get too many cookies, but you don't want to let go of any of them. So you're stuck trying to like fiddle with one piece of cutlery, get it in the right position so you can just slide it all out. Victim is I think the ghosts are going to get to him before the cultists do. So, I mean, they wouldn't have put too many sigils up in here. So it'd just be whatever defensive ones, usually to keep people out. I mean, it is cartel's mansion. They don't want anyone going to the window over the kitchen sink. They just transfer it down a little bit lower, keep that hand stuck inside. Our first victim loses his hand quite easily. Spring above. Before anything else, that's going to alert defensive drunkard Van and his little golden tree. So just a weird little shrub growing out, probably through a window or the floor. I mean, everyone else just go ahead. I don't think it's going to cause too much damage to him. It's just going to be a tree that distracts him and helps separate the group out. Easily get to the kitchen and help out. I don't think the ghosts would really like that, would they? When they finally got this one guy trapped, everyone else is supposed to have wandered off somewhere else. Yeah, you got a witness now, but between the two, one's already stuck. This other guy doesn't look like he can help pull him out. They certainly don't want him running for help to get someone who can. The kitchen's got so many sharp implements for them to choose from. Like a little poltergeist activity from the drunkard. Whole ass table just ramming him in the stomach, hitting him to a wall. He's definitely come a little bit buzzed. I mean, he's known as the drunkard after all. He's not reacting too quickly, he's not shouting for help, just like, the fuck is going? And then the other drawers open up. Chef's knives, santoku, all much sharper than the original here, even with the stains of rust going on. And he's just skewered into the wall. Our first permanent victim being the unfortunate fan. Just a little too slow on the uptake. Meanwhile, downstairs, you bastards, he's not really looking around as much as little Minody is.
Instead of just one
Something
world,
Jasper definitely
I'll have
chats.
3 as my
He doesn't
playground.
particularly want to be here. Halfway forced. He's still looking for some honest, well, some goods to steal. Not quite so honest. Finding this leather tome. Leather tome actually has some details about the runes that got put up. The Skinsaw Man cult, they're not quite as good at runes. They definitely had some notes to work off of. Let's see, probably even a few half-smudged chalk ones written somewhere. Jasper's able to put some 2 and 2 together. It's like, these are recent. This book is their guide for how to make them. And whoever was making these, very carefully keep this place looking abandoned. Dust all up and down that hidden staircase. Michael currently inspecting the inside of an ancient vase. Like, is this fucking Greek or some shit? It's, and you know, because this is all a trap, it's probably a fake-ass vase, too. Why would the cartel have hidden such a decorative beauty away? Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Cuthbert's notices. And, let's see. Michael distracted by a fake vase. As the plan goes into action. Hugh was probably hoping for them to be split up a bit more than that, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. Gives a signal. Activates a few of the sigils. I mean, Michael's full-on invested in that face. But it's big, it's bulky. Yeah, he does not react in time. Before just being completely... Let's see, Skinsaw Men... Yeah, they like torturing their captured people. Marking them with... Well, in recent days, marking them with a 7-point star. But now knowing that that's not really a viable option for their deity of choice, they'd be going back to just flaying the skin off people. So, Michael would be wrapped in web for later sacrifice, but, I mean, Jasper's been looking at these things. He's actively comparing them to the notes in the book. He's able to, with his kind of roguish evasion of sorts, avoid the webs. Turn around, accusatory, seeing that while Michael is all wrapped up, he is alone in that. Because this Hugh Bassford fucker is standing just all prim and pretty, unfortunately for him, back to Jasper. In the basement, and just all the smells of a trap. I think Jasper would just full on attempt to kill this man and then just mad dash for the exit, trapping him in a rather pleasant illusion. Almost not enough time to question. It's like, wait, why is this down here? We're doing a trap. Throat is slit. The fastest way to kill someone Jasper has easy access to. Distraction, slit, run. That marks death number 2. And unfortunately, that leaves Michael for definite death number 3. I mean, Jasper didn't even want to be there. He's not saving that dumbass. Fawning over some Grecian vase in that obvious trap. Just a little half salute. It's like, fuck you too. And he's gonna just go ahead and run up the stairs. Let's see, the sigils have gone off. There's definitely some other sigils alerting to other cultists in the area. It's like, we got 'em, boys. So the screams upstairs definitely would have confirmed that for a few of them, acting a little early. So, Jasper manages to make it up here to the foyer. Yeah, it does, but we're still missing one major injury left. Let's see. What weapons did I get the skin saw men again? Let's see. Oh yes, they had a few rogues amongst them, didn't they? Which means they also have that special extra sneak attack damage sword that Val's gotten some use out of. They'd certainly have enough numbers to take out one leg, no matter how good this rogue is, as he tries to stumble past, having to force himself to the vestibule entrance, being far closer than the parlor. He manages to, let's see, I mean, we've already got our 3 deaths, so it means he does have to live, unfortunately. So that does mean he is losing a majority of his arm. You know what, we will say his right arm. Odds are he was a righty. It would have been the more instinctive option to just throw up to avoid a, head getting cut off or something. With that, Jasper manages to leave alive but injured, and never fucking let himself get dragged out to some heist-like behavior again. Michael left for dead in the basement. But seeing as all the action was there, that's where all the wards were tripped. A curious efficient just saw this drunkard van die. So, Minotti, instead, he's just gonna go, it's like, you know what? I may be looking for a priest, but this ain't worth dying over. Use what spells he can to limit the blood loss. Gives up his hand from gone forever. Though him, I'm going to say he's a southpaw. I'm going to say that because the church, at least in the U.S., for so many years was part of the hand sinister's, like, sign of sin or some other stupid shit. That most certainly was not in the Bible. Southpaw. Left hand in the garbage disposal. No, he still managed to get off with some cutlery. I'm sure he'll die outside the dungeon later when the skin saw cultists track him down. But that doesn't count as a death to the dungeon. That's just straight up revenge, really. Alright, so what do we have so far? We can go ahead and erase this little star in the parlor. No one died there. Oh, wait, we got selected though. Instead, we're just gonna put another one down here for the basement. God, the basement's just getting all the business these days. Some a very much bloodier end to that particular night than they would have been expected. I mean, stealing from cultists, they were lucky to have gotten away alive, really. Alright, so, what right thing would have been left by these adventurers? And how did this mansion of a dungeon turn brightness into further corrupting shadows? If anyone has some idea they'd like to interject for either of those, they can go ahead. I'll start noting down what in the years after, if anything else has ousted these guys, or if they have added to their forces. Let's see. So they're working with ghosts. I mean, they managed to get one guy for sure. They're down on their own. I think the cult is going to grow some, but not much. Now, the bigger threat is the ghosts themselves have grown in power. I think they're going to start getting some shadows on their side. There's a strength draining. Are they undead? The strength draining monsters of D&D. Getting a bit more powerful, and probably the cultists welcome them, thinking they're a sign of assistance from the skin-saw man they worship with blood. Three S's instead of OWS. Alright, so... so yeah, those are the... what's happened since. I'm not seeing anyone who wanted to throw a suggestion for the first two, so the right thing was left by the adventurers. So the ones who died, the traitor does not count. So we've got the suffering hangman and the drunkard. Let's go ahead and just pull up the random trinket table. Maybe we'll see a few interesting ideas for what they might have had on their persons. Let's see. There's a horror trinket page? Let's go with that. Okay, for the, what's this? Diana Richton's Guide to Ravenloft? Yeah. Let's see. Roll D10 another 2 times. Let's see what pops up. 98. Ooh, pretty high. 98. An Electrum coin with your face on one side. And the other 1 and 1, which is a wineskin that refills when interred with a dead person for a night, you know? Oh boy. As much as the drunkard might make sense for that little wineskin, the other one's a suffering hangman. I think he's some sort of, maybe not a government-sponsored killer, but he certainly gets away with it. No, let's call him a cop. Yeah, we're... I'm sorry to put dirt on your namesake there, Michael, but I mean, cop's a cop, deserves killing. Yeah, his treatment was a wineskin that refills when it's left with a corpse. There we are. Corpse. That's good enough. Shoot, what was that other item? Let's see. Oh, right, an electrum piece. An electrum coin. With their face on one side. You know, That certainly sounds like the thing a drunkard might have just kept around for just shits and giggles. Maybe it's a loaded coin, so to speak. We'll just call it that. Coin. Leave off to his face thing, because that's not the important. So I'm left with a couple trinkets, one of which the cultists will get a lot of use out of. That definitely helps it bring even more people in. It's like, hey, bring a buddy, kill him, get a free draught of wine. Like, you know, the usual. The electrum coin, no. That helps explain how they start getting some more money. Yeah, they're able to rig some bets or even trick people into thinking that it can predict the future. I think the bright thing left behind is wealth. Wealth and scams. Yeah. And scams left in the form of a loaded coin and a wineskin. The other question was that, how did the dungeon turn this brightness into corrupting shadow? Well, I mean, it brought in more members for the cult. But more importantly, it made it easier for them to get more people. I mean, they've got a reloading wineskin and a way to load a bet against people. I could certainly see them get a future victims onto the premises. So yeah, that's a good place for that. No, we actually don't need all these victims visible. At least not for the moment. Let's see. Don't worry, decide what happened the years between. Ghosts are becoming some powerful shadows to drain, make later victim less likely to escape. Do they add anything to this structure? Well, I think with that and how the secret staircase room, it really isn't working out for them too well. It's a little cramped. It's just a mass waiting from other sources. So, well, welcome to the Chat Cthulhu, and you are correct, that is a good way to do it sometimes, but I figured using the You Are the Dungeon kind of like single-player game is a good way to also build in some lore, because I'm not really good at doing lore in a vacuum. I kind of need questions or like people to bounce the ideas off of. I mean, heck, I'm bouncing the location here off a player's backstory, cartel, and just all that business going on. But yeah, welcome. If you'd like to suggest any names, we're about to go into the next round of victims. Let me just double check. Yep. And back to the first phase, which is the foray. But first, let's see how many victims are coming in this third wave. Years later, cultists got stronger ghosts. Ooh, but it's a small group. It's actually a group of 5 again. Well, can't always be perfect. Let's go ahead and make a third victim's layer. This way I can kind of mark where they are when they unfortunately pass. And then before that, since we have another 5, let's get another text box here. 1. Oh, let's make this black text, not certainly not ugly green. Holy shit. It's 2. 3. Why is it not typing? Ah, there we go. 3, 4, I need to just bring this down. Oh, far too small. Okay. 19 should work. Alright, so if you miss the exclamation, to decide the kind of archetype for these characters, I draw random tarot cards, and there's a full-on list of what each card represents as an archetype. Hopefully I don't get any repeats, because I already got a repeat in that second wave from the first. In fact, if I get a repeat, I'll just go ahead and redraw for that person. Let's see. Here are the tarot card lists. We have, first off, that's a new one, 9 of Wands, a 2 of Cups, Page of Swords. I think I got 5 swords on the last one, we'll see. And an Ace of Cups, so let's figure out what those are. Actually, we'll start with this 5 of Swords first. Just see if we get it again. So 5 of Swords, that translates to Suffering. Yeah, that's the one I got in the first one too, so no. Definitely replacing that one. Ace of Wands, that's definitely new. Ace of Wands is supposed to be the Dedicated Crafter. That's certainly a new type. Why are you not typing for some time? What is going on? Don't know why that happened. Okay. Dedicated Crafter. Yeah, if anyone has any names they want to toss on these guys, make them easier to follow, go right ahead. I've got plenty I can do myself, but if you're here, might as well affect the plot a little bit. Let's see, number 2 was the Ace of Cups. Ace of Cups is the Prideful Vintner. Okay, I believe that's someone who, judges wines for a living. Like a food critic, but exclusively wines. It's a little weird, but we'll see. Page of Swords. That's a curious fish to get, no? Next. Instead we have the 6 of Cups, which is definitely new. The Rejoicing Sailmaker? Okay. That'll be a little tricky to fit in, because this is in a more modern setting. I don't think there's a whole lot of sailmakers nowadays. Let's see, and then we're back in the 2 of Cups. That is Stalwart Wanderer. Okay. That sounds like a real, maybe adventurer type. Oh, why did I put that there? There we go. And the last, number 5, is the 9 of Wands. 9 is the Faithful Thresher. I believe a thresher is one of the methods to bring in crops. I think specifically for grain-based ones. So he's a farmer. So yeah, we'll just call him a farmer. Easier in case any new people pop in. Alrighty. This is an interesting mix of people. Maybe still looking for names if anyone has any ideas. I'm gonna go ahead and toss. Let's go ahead and put a Septimus on the bit. That sounds kind of upper crust enough. We go through all that. We'll go ahead and blow up their fates. So in order, we got 1. Okay, so on that one, that is Temptations from the Depths. Okay, what is this first guy getting tempted by? Number 4. Learning the words to a forgotten language. Okay. For crafting, that's not too bad. Learning forgotten language. around the text box so it's a little bit more visible. There we go. Septimus, where are you getting, buddy? Ooh. Box number 6, The Torrents of Sorrow. Okay. Alright, I'm loving it. Let the wine liker suffer. Number 7. It's going to notice an arcane symbol constructed out of severed limbs. Ooh, we're finally getting some of the gory stuff. Severed limb. We call it a sigil. Sigil's a kind of arcane flavored thing. The Sailmaker. What's Sailmaker getting? We got a 9. Another one of the later boxes. Wonders Beyond Reckoning. Okay, alright. Number 2, we've got 1. Glorious Tree with Golden Leaves in the first one, so I guess we already know what that is. We put that Golden Tree appearance here in the Sun Parlor, and it was I mean, it used to be non-violent. Let's see if it'll stay that way. Leaves there. I forgot to mark down the number for what these were. You know what? I can go back later. Just do this guy because it's right here. He was 9-1. Stalwart Wanderer. Go ahead and just mark it here before I forget again. Group number 10. Alright. I will be the first. I don't think we got this group yet. So group 10 is the Stuff of Nightmares. And we got an ever-present shadow filled with eyes. Okay, the update we got from that last group was that the undead spirits have started coming in as shadows. The D&D type monster. Capital S shadow, to remember that. If I can spell it all, yeah. Shadow filled with eyes. I have a feeling that guy's going to be one of the ones who die. The Faithful Farmer. Let's see. He gets group number 4. Okay. The item number 1 again. We're getting a lot of the ones. For these baleful cursing. And a flute that never stops playing. On a farmer. Flute always playing. Alright. Because I can't remember the numbers of these two, we'll just leave it. But finally is rolling our D10 to see what percentage of these people survives. Alrighty, we have got a 1. 10% are gonna make it out of there. Oh boy. Oh boy, boy, boy. So let's see, it's another group of 5, which means 20% represent each person. One of them is getting out with only about half of their available limbs. And it can only be 1 because there's no way to split 10% between 2 people. If you've only got like a quarter of your body left, you're probably dead. Because that's like most of your torso. Let's see. Alright, so let's start with the ones most likely to die first. Tool options. We are going to start with our ink pen. That's the pencil. Said the pencil. Oh, so that text box. So let's swap with that. There we go. Still have that star shape. We will, with this doomed group, let's go ahead and switch to a brighter red like that. Yeah, that's good. That's looking real good. So we know there's the golden tree with leaves here. I think that's definitely going to be where someone dies. There's been several years since that last group came in. Time for that group to be for that tree to be nurtured and become some sort of trap. Whether they've made it a man-eater, or have had things just trigger if you go past it trying to leave. Let's see. What are one of these tricky ones? Let's see. Shadow doesn't matter because that could be anywhere. He's being followed. I think between the severed limb sigil and this flute are going to be what decides it. So which one of these ones would most likely have had instruments? I mean, there's a billiard room, which is pretty good. With a living room. Oh, one second. Let me pull up the original floor. Let's see, floor 1. Has some seating area there. So you know what? We'll say the living room is where that flute is found. It's most likely the area any entertainment would have spent, especially with traditional instruments. Let's see. Running a forgotten language. Let's see, that's going to be a little bit tricky in a mansion. Especially an abandoned one. Let's see. You know, seeing as we have so many ghosts and spirits haunting this location, how about it's not traditional learning from a book? It's a craftsman. Maybe there's some sort of illusion-based trap. And because these cultists have now got a ghost on their side, they've got someone just trying to keep him here forever in an illusion where they are just teaching him. Let's see. That best place would probably be, because he's a crafter. There's a fancy mansion. A lot's happened with the staircase of the previous runs, as we can see with there and there. So let's instead go to the billiard room. The billiard room would probably have some very, distinct detail work. And it's a mansion. It's one of the places you would go to kind of show off to your guests. So yeah, we've got that there. But now we're starting to get split a little too many different directions. So I think this sigil is also in the billiard room. I think it's there, and that's what sets off the trap on this unsuspecting crafter. But once it's sprung, the second person comes in and is able to tell. This prideful vintner just kind of coming along is unfortunately not trapped as much as the cultists would have hoped. While the stalwart wanderer, I think he would have been a little separate from everyone else, not really caring. Though he's certainly going to get caught up if anyone's going to survive. Let's see. Alright, so former mansion, former very rich cartel have guests. I'm sure the faithful farmer could be distracted by what he thinks is just a enchanted instrument playing by itself. Something not too interesting to everyone else in their jobs. Either sailmaker just doesn't give a shit. Vintner, he's already seen it. Probably similar for the crafter as well. And the wanderer, I mean, he's just constantly being on the move, and you know, someone else started covering that room, so no need to stay. Alright. So I think he doesn't actually find anything. I think he's just kind of wandering around and then reacts to the shouts and fear of the others. Let's see. So the first one kind of trapped would be the faithful farmer. This living room, unfortunately, these exits are the only ones. When he's drawn to this far corner. These cultists have been setting up sigils, they're working with the ghosts. I think he gets in deep enough here Kind of a ghostly crowd of other listeners, kind of made up like former guests reliving a show before their untimely end. Sort of ghost story that a farmer might enjoy, but stick around for. You know, forgetting that a haunted fucking mansion is an easy place to die. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Let's see. Farmer and flute. Kind of ghostly performance, we'll call it. Easily distracted while some cultists sneak in, getting close before the guys in the billiard room kind of, you know, screw up the whole plan for them. So that's a definite one guy down and out. Goodbye, farmer. We knew you not at all. Bound and gagged for later sacrifice and flaying. So who's most likely next? No problem, no problem. Well, we just decided that the faithful farmer here of this little group is the first to go down. Distracted by a ghostly performance with an ever-playing flute, spirits working with the cultists kind of reimagine a scene with some performers came into the mansion and showed off their sweet magical gear from the cartels. What would be lieutenant level officers? And, unfortunately distracted long enough that he was the first to fall. And if you weren't here for this particular percent, only 10% are getting out alive. So you know that guy's fucking dead. I think the last person we get to is going to be the one who survives. If only because everyone else are keeping the cultists busy. Yeah, we've got this wanderer being followed by a shadow, like specifically the monster, and with little flavor just filled with piercing eyes. Alright, but next is... that's a shame. Well, in case anyone else comes in, I can go back and kind of recap that for you. Let me go ahead and just close this for a bit, because we're going to the second... Oh, not that one. There we are. Alright, so... Let's see... So the first to pretty much be doomed here was Michael. Traps got set off, wrapped in web. At the same time it was set off, Jasper was actively looking at one. Was actively looking at a sigil, inspecting, comparing notes on a book. And he caught on pretty well. He's able to turn around, see, you know, Michael wrapped up, doomed, but one Hugh Basford, looking cocky as hell, back to him. So being the kind of roguish archetype of the group, he fucking... sorry, not roguish. The arcane trickster archetype specifically put a nice little illusion to distract Hugh long enough for him to just sneak up, just slit his throat. Quick, easy, no noise. But he attempted to get out. He did, albeit with the loss of his right arm, trying to block a blow from one of the several cultists who had popped out. But you know, surviving is better than having both arms in his case, so there's that. But let's see. So I believe you would have been here for the drunkard trying to come in and save the holy man in the kitchen, right there. Hand stuck in the garbage disposal as it turned on, screaming out in pain. I mean, he's a little tipsy, but he knows enough to go check out what the fuck is happening to his buddy. spirits go full-on poltergeist. All the knives, the cleavers, everything in the kitchen, rising up as he is pinned to a wall with the dining table, and just stuck there, like a pig. Yeah, that would have been the first literal death, but the second counting here. Let's see. Oh no, sorry, the second literal death, because you'd asked for throat slit. Blech. But yeah, seeing as the cut-pursed Jasper had quickly ran out the front to get away, that's enough time for the cleric to heal up what he could with his cure wounds and other such stuff, hear the scuffle out front, and just kind of quietly go out this porch door. And be glad he only lost his left hand. With that, we are currently on the third round. As you can see, we've got a dedicated crafter, distracted by learning a forgotten language. He and the prideful vintner Septimus are here in the billiard room. As you can see, I don't have names for these other four, so if you have any suggestions... meanwhile, I'll go ahead with... You know, let's get another girl in the mix. Let's go with a Juniper. Juniper... He's most likely to be distracted. Let's go with the Wanderer. Juniper will be our little Wanderer, not caught in any particular room, but constantly being followed. Though the sinking suspicion that something is watching her. I mean, look. There's just something about when a tree falls in the forest. But yeah. If you have any other names, I'll go ahead and pop up a ever-classic fancy name generator for a few. If I can spell. Generator. Real names. There we go. Let's... Really, they only have one tag for both Americas? Okay. But there is a Brazilian name specifically, so that works for us. Ooh, get a drink though. Ooh, it's been an hour. An hour and a half. Ooh boy. So we probably have a little bit more than this one way before calling it for a night. But that's honestly a lot more than I thought. Okay, let's start with another female name. Orpheus, that's a good one. Alright, any particular one you want to have on Orpheus? Do we want him to be the farmer? Orpheus being trapped by the flute? That'd be pretty fitting. And all the random names, let's go with Laura. It's a Brazilian name, but I know there's a bunch of languages with Laura. Let's see. With Laura is the learning forgotten language. Not hearing any demands otherwise, let's go to Orpheus as a farmer. It's a pretty Greek name for a farmer in Brazil, but you know, maybe he's got some foreign family he's named after. Meanwhile, Luciano. Luciano's a pretty good one. We'll make him the rejoicing sailmaker. Orpheus is the farmer who's most definitely dead and captured. And I can't remember if you were here for it. But we said the dedicated crafter had gone to the billiard room with the vintner. Because I assumed that There will need one of the better decorated ones with nice antique furniture or wall designs. Something they might actually take appreciation to. Because there might be a small bar area, the vintner would come along. Unfortunately, the first person in is our crafter, triggering a sigil, getting them stuck in an illusory world where they think it's like, I'm here to learn something. And then the ghosts start pouring out of the walls. So it's like, yes, you're here for, you're here to learn Latin, we'll say. That's something they had likely picked up from these cultists who learned all their magic bloodthirsty as it was from ancient books. Latin's a typical go-to. Is that crafter illusion world for Latin? Meanwhile, the vintner's having absolutely none of that, walking in just like, hey Laura, why'd you stop? And just looks at this far wall down here, and they notice that the sigil that had been briefly glowing after activating is made entirely of severed limbs. Now, this sort of illusion probably wouldn't take much. But we are going for a bit on the gory side, so we're going to say it's the hands. It's just all made of hands in various just poses. Spelling something out in a different old forgotten language. Probably one invented by the skin-saw man for how depraved it is. And they're kind of distracted just trying to get Laura to respond to anything instead of just staring off with a dumb smile on her face. So, he's not a big man. He reviews wines. That's not the typical job that you expect someone to be big, beefy, arms thick around as a ham. So yeah, he's not having a lot of luck with that. Actually, before that, I think... if anyone is here still, are there any votes for who gets to live? So I think that'll drastically alter how everything else plays out. I think Luciano definitely has to die to that tree. If only because they would not have stuck to observe that tree just being a sailmaker. I'll just toss another X there. Which means we have our Juniper, who's kind of wandering the premises, seeing what's there. We have our Vintner Septimus, who's trying to free the last person, Laura, from an illusion enhanced by the spirits around. Now, an easy one to somehow survive would be this Vintner. I mean, he's prideful of his work, yeah, but he's not brave. He can't save this woman. He sees ghosts pouring. Laura hearing the warnings of the spirits. Oh, are they turning on the cultists? That is an interesting twist. Especially for next time we come back to this. I think we can do another two forays and pharaohs to see what happened. So yeah, maybe the spirits of they're starting to get big and powerful off of these kind of just ambient energy from all the killings. But yeah, we'll say Laura is eventually allowed to get out with their help. Which unfortunately means not much left for everyone else. So we know Luciano is doomed for not have anything to really do with him for the moment. But Septimus tries drastically just eventually start dragging her out. It's like he can't carry, but whatever damage done to her heels on the way out the terrace door, she can live with. She can live with or not. But being so encumbered and exhausted, I don't think he really makes it past the vestibule. No, I think with the cultist, once again, sigil is triggered. Probably a brief scream in anger, if not disgust, from the vendor. Just let them know it's people are starting getting caught. I've already got the music flowing out of the living room. So tired from dragging her for too long before going, it's like, this is doomed, I should leave her behind. And the cultists pop out. Oh, buddy, you're not getting out anywhere with her. And of course, they gotta focus on the struggling one who wants to run. So they pop out the entrance side here, force him further into the house. He goes up the stairs. The last act of camaraderie. So the third row of victims will say, a step there falls out from underneath him, getting him stuck, trapped. Cultists making easy work of him, but enough time for Laura to start getting a chance to come out of the illusion. She, despite being a crafter, not, intended for learning things, she takes the classes quite well. She learns much more than the dead Latin. All the spirits with enough minds left to have some semblance of personality. Start teaching them their own, and she learns them all. She's just being filled with knowledge, and they want to help her. They feel bad for her now, knowing that there is a chance that they can actually do something better than assisting murderers. But all the remaining magic, especially over the years since they've got control of it, there's a new moral that's kind of gotten stuck in their heads. Nothing is free. There's always a cost. As we saw from the percentage, she is losing 2 limbs to get out of this alive. But to carry on with the knowledge given, and as well as carrying a few of the spirits out, she must ensure that her original job is over. And in a half-manic state, while she does escape unscathed, most of her mind about her, when she gets back to her workplace, she goes ahead and just opens a large, we'll say, printing press, because newspaper it's a form of craft, especially if she's sort of not really aligned with a proper newspaper, making her own. Probably some less than legal. Ooh. She's gonna be part of that other faction. I'm blanking on the name. Right, the Policia de Rayurb. Yeah, from the Rayurb faction, who stole the narcotic plants the cartel had a monopoly on. She's one of the more revolutionary side members. But she's got to give up that work to do the bidding of these spirits. Which leaves a lot of openings for future plots, especially in the term of one wandering woman with 5-6 voices in her head and not actually crazy. Yeah, she'll lift the printing press's upper level, fill it with as many of the little type letters she can, and she just smashes her hands one by one. Oh yeah, Spirits Bard. Great for a revolution, and also doesn't really need those hands anymore. Yeah, Spirits Bard is good. That's definitely going in the notes too. Spirits Bard. Vintner trapped as he ran like a coward. stupidly going upstairs, where he would have been trapped.
We'll meet again. Don't know where.
Let's go ahead and mark that on here.
But I know we'll
There
meet
is
again
dead.
some sunny day.
Let's see, that commotion of him trying to run up the stairs, that does alert the other two. So we've got the two people left. Luciano probably didn't go in quite as far. Maybe he's observing the ghostly quartet at a distance, also entranced until the farmer gets captured. First going gag over the mouth as two other cultists grab his arms to keep him restrained. Luciano would do, and he'd do a pretty good job of trying to save him. Unfortunately, the farmer is still too far into the illusion. The extra cultists are just not needed to restrain him. They are able to attempt to make short work of little Luciano. Not so lucky as the what's that, rapper, I think. Not so lucky. He's beaten. He's taken a good couple of knocks. Arm really hurt. Probably not shattered, but it's definitely fractured or something smaller. Just looks around, it's like, way the entrance? No, there's no chance at it. No chance at all. So instead, he falls back. Sun parlor, all that light coming at the back. And seeing the tree, and it's like, nothing. It's just a tree. Move on, just run through a window that's been broken for who knows how long. Decade or so. But in attempting to do so, it's a golden tree. Ooh, we know what happens with golden trees in the middle of the Amazon. They unintentionally spawn some necrotic trees. This one, this golden tree, is in fact one of those who has learned to disguise itself. Our little filmmaker, Luciano, is caught by a, what is it? I think it was just a monkey-eating tree. Aha! I'm assuming you got the tarot deck now. Nice. Let's see, let me write this down before I forget. Caught by a monkey-eating tree. That is death number 3. Almost the last. Alright, I will say the first and the third are upside down. Come on, hit me with your reading. Let's see what the cards say. Meanwhile, I'll get a drink. Ooh. Man, almost 2 hours and I'm barely at any of this drink. Ah. Alright, we'll just go ahead and... Got 4 of Swords reversed. Reopen my tarot thing. And a 10 of Wands upright. Get out of your head. Let's see. And the 8 of Cups. Alright, let me pop these up in other tabs. Let's see what you got for me. Cups. Okay. first, we got the Four Swords reversed. Let's see. A young man resting on a pallet 3 swords above, 1 under him. In a Rider-Waite deck, it may look like he's dead, but he's really just resting. Usually referred to as the meditation card, taking time to reflect, think back, or even just get some more energy. In reverse, however, let's see. Reverse usually indicates times of argument, misunderstanding, or even mental distress. Now for a 3-card draw, that means that represents the past. So I'm going to go ahead and assume you're doing this reading for me as part of sending you a very fancy deck to Australia. I see how it is. Yeah, past with a lot of distress and argument, that is certainly fitting for me. The next 2 cards are both upright. So the 10 of Wands. Let's see. Man carrying 10 heavy wands, trying to keep them together, but kind of bowed over by their weight. This guy has probably bridging the gap on the straw to break the camel's back, burdening himself. Wands are typically passion, creativity, energy, ambition in need of restrictions. Let's see. Becoming too restricted, however, and the energy parceled out too much, nothing grows. So present would be things are going stagnant. Too many irons in the fire, something's getting lost. That's probably not too untrue. It's definitely a lot of things being added to my activity list. But I'm not really feeling anything except a loss of sleep a few times, trying to keep up to date on what all my friends are streaming. It's like I can't help it, I want to know. But finally ending with the 8 of Cups, representing the future. Let's see. Man leaves behind 8 cups to follow the moon. There are typically 2 views on this card. Some see it as a morning after. Someone who has drunk too much, hungover, and is learning the hard way to kind of rein in their indulgence. Let's see. Or the second interpretation, which is they've been indulging for quite a while, and it's starting to get out of hand. Which, with the stack of cups on a typical 8 of Cups, is certainly representing that. Let's see, so all these cards together feels like it's a... So what was the past again? The sluggishness, kind of argument, mental stress. Present being kind of just too many things going on at once, and the future, things gotten a bit far. And that is a valid concern, especially for the things I'm trying to do. But none of these are really saying it's not worth trying. And some of the greatest lessons learned in life are, unfortunately, learned the hard way by failure. Or at least by struggling and having to rebalance objectives. That's definitely a reading worth considering, but not overwhelming negatively. I do appreciate if I am your first reading to breaking your deck. I do appreciate that honor. Yeah, what time are we at? You know what? Let's do the reverse. Flip. No flip. While you do the drawing and then pasting those in, I'll go ahead and figure out how is this last person dying.
So we got the farm and the flute. They got caught. Illusion, no hope left. The vintner tried to be noble, then got cold feet and tried to run. By flip-flopping, he is out of the picture. Luciano tried to save the farmer, to no avail. Also ran, and he's plant food, literally. But we know Laura's getting away, which leaves the stalwart Jupiter, who, as we know, because there can only be one survivor, does not make it. So she's being followed by a shadow. She's not really as driven as some of these other people. Where would she have wandered? Well, you went to the living room, the other two went over to the billiard. She probably would have wandered through the kitchen a ways. Would have seen some of the holes in the wall and probably some of the blood stains from our last group a couple years back. The shadow filled with eyes suddenly popping out on her. Let's see. Juniper in the kitchen with a very powerful shadow, and one that's definitely a lot more bloodthirsty than the ghosts. Let's see. Now I think being able to blend in so well, this dank, starting to get pretty run-down mansion, I think it just slowly drains her over time. She doesn't notice before it's unfortunately too late. Hearing the shouts from the foyer, getting all the way around here to the side entrance, and that's where I'll put this final star. She gets there to see the hubbub, see everyone chasing the vintner upstairs. Poor Septimus. People knew him well and didn't really like what they knew. She tries to just dodge out the side entrance. Unfortunately does not get off the mansion property in time. She's just too drained of strength. Alright, which only leads the Pharaoh questions to get to. We'll go ahead and interpret this other reading from Michael first. So, we've got the Two of Wands to start. Then we have the Nine of Swords. Nine of Swords, there we are. Finally, the Seven of Pentacles. Or, as some decks call it, the Seven of Coins. Often the pentacle is just shown as a coin. But the only one reversed is the Two of Wands to start. Big sip first. So the Two of Wands, the picture usually features a man with a wand in one hand, and the other one set aside, like on a table in front of him. This card is usually about making a choice, but not as big or important a choice as the Major Arcana card, the Magician. Wands are specifically about passion. Passion is not something that works when split. You need to focus. So it's about deciding which of the two things to work on. That's something that happened in the past with Lucy, isn't it? Yeah. He was the elected person to represent the other angels. He was their union rep, so to speak. Went to speak to the brother gods of dark and light. And in their anger at his uppityness, his self-importance, he and all the other former workers of theirs got split to celestials and fiends. This is a rather literal representation of his past, because the reversed is the negative version, where unable to choose one, your focus is split and neither thrives. In this case, that is literally the point the gods were trying to make. The fiendish and celestial halves of all their workers forced to fight each other instead of ever working together or towards their own individual goals. Right? So for the present, that will bring us to the Nine of Swords. A woman wakes from a nightmare, 9 swords on the wall. It can be a good thing to find what you seek, except when it comes to ideas, words, or problems, which can overwhelm you, which tends to be the case for most of the nines, overwhelming you instead of focusing on yourself. So the upright for this. The present situation, Lucy is in a bit of a state of anxiety, being too focused and far too critical of themselves, or in a sense, of Derek. The version of himself who is currently actively trying to reach the level of God, even if he has promised not to go for godhood itself. What with his 10th level spell, towing the line of various timelines getting smoked. That's certainly a thing to be anxious of, and in need of a quote-unquote wake-up call, which this card would represent. Things not looking too great for the Lucy reading. But I mean, the future card might be good. 7 of Pentacles, let's see. Typically a farmer leaning on his spade, gazing at pentacles that grow on a bush like fruit or berries. He's done the work, he's planted, planned, he's toiled in the field. All that's left to do is wait. In fact, he's waited for so long, he is starting to get a bit impatient. He's put so much work into it, but this particular pursuit is it's taken quite a long time. He's beginning to doubt if it will ever be ready for harvest. Now, it is upright. So let's see. So it's not a challenge fail, but a challenge being presented. Perhaps his anxiety is coming to a point. He is starting to see where Derek, without his friends to keep an eye on him, keep him from going too far, has reached the penultimate point where other timelines are starting to look like they're going to be doomed. That's almost nearly opposite in several regards. The first reading, things are not looking great for Lucy, past, present, or future. But unfortunately, he can't help as much as he'd like. All he can do is watch on and see as all work seems to be in vain. It's an unfortunate reading. But yeah, we are coming up on about the end of the stream. My voice is definitely going out, but I'll see if I can't at least hold on for these last 4A events. No, that's fair. Sorry, the fallow. The wheat being separated from the chaff. So what bright thing was left by the adventurers this time? Well, we have the farmer here who got distracted in hope, which is no bad thing. In fact, overall, this group was not nearly as violent as the last two could have been. And the first one had a jealous man go after the boyfriend of the woman he had a one-sided crush on. Got himself killed and the other one mutilated. See, in the second group, there was an attempted traitor who himself got killed when the sprung trap failed. This time they're seeing a lot of hope. I mean, distracted by the beauty of music and the performance. An illusion that actually taught a woman many languages, and even got a few passengers, well, ghostly passengers out to explore the world that has changed for some of them many decades before. And the vintner trying to help unfortunately become cowed and running, but that's still different than they would have noticed. A lot of victims finding out what was the beef to them probably would have lashed out and hoped to try and overpower these captors. So I think maybe the thing that was left was a hope of a less violent continuation of this deal. Maybe a hope for better change and better times. Certainly a bright thing to leave behind. How does this brightness become even more corrupting shadow for this dungeon? Well, cultists have been making good progress with the energy here. I think this recent group being so easily caught makes them stretch themselves too far, trying to get more people. So yeah, we'll say they start trying to pull in more victims more frequent. Blood for the blood god and all that. Cultists want more. And in the years after, what takes up residence of these desperate passages? Well, I can't say the peacekeepers, because you guys already know 5-6 years in the future, when Campaign 1 happened, there's no mention of peacekeepers as a group. Some of their members might still exist in a similar situation, but they definitely don't exist as they once did. So it's not the peacekeepers who outstayed the cultists, but who would? We can't really do the Adventurers Guild, because then it kind of ends the story here. It flips too quickly to positive. This is gone. I think for a time no one is here but the shadows. They oust their former occupants, the cultists. But I mean, that shadow just managed to drain Jupiter before she could escape. Rather bloodless, but very bloodthirsty. Maybe there's internal strife. The more corporeal shadows. Kind of a civil war with the actual ghosts and spirits. Which means what happens to the next group, if they should be the last, might see the one overcome the other. If the shadows win, then it's probably two more things of Pharaoh to follow. So what did the residents add to the structure? You know, for the next crew, I think there needs to be a major structural change. Let's see. 3rd to 4th. Destruction. Layer for that. Let's switch to a less shapely thing. And to make it very stand out, let's go with... Yeah, we don't have a blue yet. Let's go with a blue. Let's see all 3 floors. Where's the most death happened? Here in the center. So we're going to say what happens is the main staircase is just going to become a big old sinkhole. So now that secret room underneath becomes a bit more revealed. The house is starting to crumble in literally to the center. So So yeah, let's rename that destruction to sinkhole. 'Cause I will probably forget what that's supposed to represent. But yeah, I think that is a great place to leave it off. 2 phases done, another 10 people who fell to this dungeon. Quite a lot has happened. And in an unexpected twist, it looks like it's going in a much more positive direction than I expected. But yeah, let's go ahead and pop over to the, well, actually before that, reminder, it's like down here, if anyone's interested in getting You Are the Dungeon, 1 month subscription to the Patreon for The Other Tracy. You can get any of the past games they made, including this one, and they have a wide range. I know there was also a multiplayer like wrestling action thing where it only uses a couple dice. They have some just wacky concepts, and was it usually only like $4 or $5 for a month subscription to a lot of Patreons. Like, that's good for however many dozen games they've done. So yeah, go check them out, get inspired. If nothing else, they're all quick games to pick up for a game night. It's like, guys, we got to like end in like 30 minutes. Do we want to break out a quick game? It's like, you got some options. But for tonight, all that's left is really to find out, who are we going to raid to? Not that window, that is the Twitter feed. Where is their Twitch? Alright, Twitch, show me which of the people that I enjoy content of are currently on. We have Howie. Howie's pretty... but no, he's not. It looks like he's about to wrap up. We've got... Osric is pretty good, and I just gotta interact with some of his stuff through Braca. He's playing Deep Rock Galactic. That's not bad. Ooh, but Trip Starlake is doing the Cosmic Wheel Sisterhood, which is a tarot-based deck builder game that just came out, so let's go over to her. That is perfect after the various tarot shenanigans that have happened here. Alright, so... Trip Starlake. But yeah, if anyone wants to follow there for more tarot fun, feel free to just stick around for a bit. Thursday next week, we are not doing this again. I'm actually going to do the first homebrew review. It's something that I've wanted to do for a while, but haven't really been fully prepped for just yet. So yeah, we'll see how that first presentation goes. If it goes well, and the next week after I'll do another. If it doesn't, I have some technical issues, we'll put off for another week or two after that, sometime in September instead. But I'm hoping to start doing that at least once a month. Just show off homebrew from the Unearthed Kana subreddit that I like, or some pay-for-product people who I really enjoy their stuff. But until then, it's still typical Saturday, Sunday is going to be Backpack Hero. And I hope some of you guys pop in then. But until then, have a good evening.